studio with my co-host. What's up, Brittany and Deja? How you guys doing?
What up,
What
do?
up?
Yeah,
Good, good,
so
good.
another week. What's your week been like?
You first, Ash.
Whew, my week has been okay. I'm kind of sleep deprived from my new job. I have ridiculous hours, but they're gonna change next month. So I'm just trying to make it to the end of this week. And luckily it's gonna be a short week because of Thanksgiving. So yeah. Just looking forward to this holiday season. Get to spend time with my loved ones for a little bit on Thursday. So that'll be
That's
fun.
cool. That's cool. Where are you going?
I'm gonna go to my cousin's house. She is hosting it. She's been a homeowner for a few years now, and her mom used to do most of the heavy lifting when it
Mm.
came to hosting stuff. Um, just like their kind of little immediate family unit or whatever. So now that she's like gotten her own place, she's kind of
Nice.
taken over that duty, and she really enjoys it. So it's really cozy at her place too. I'm excited to go and see everyone, all my cousins.
That sounds fun.
And what
Yeah.
about you, Brittany?
Yeah, I'm excited for the short week as well. My mom is cooking. She wrote down everything. She's so excited, and which means I'm excited as well. Vegan pecan pie, which it was a struggle to get her to make because she's like, "That's the most fattening pie ever." So I'm just kind of like, I don't care. That's the
That's
whole
what I
point.
want.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I'm really excited about that. And then it's a short week for 9 to 5, but it's a long week for Village Pizza and McKeebalon because we're hosting the first annual Lunch and Laugh where they're going to be, I think, 3 to 4 comedians. And then it gives the chance for the Culinary Pleasures, the youth program that's
We're gonna
rooted
have
out
to
of.
work on our like how to slide in flyers and stuff like that
Oh
live.
yeah. That would have been hard. But
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm really excited about that. We're
At
gonna
a
do
Kibulan
at
Village in
Akibalon, yeah.
Detroit.
It's from 2 to 3 on Sunday, which is
Support the East Side.
support the East Side. That's usually the day we do pizza every week. So we're
Hmm.
not gonna do pizza this week just because we're gonna be doing that. So we're not the main course. We're the appetizer, and then we're the salad entree. So I'm really, really excited about that. So yeah. What about you,
Mm.
Pipe?
My week. So I have been taking a lot of business courses, and I am finished with one. That one finished. What's okay? Last week, Wednesday. That was the last day of that one. The next two, I finished one next week, and then the next one I finish on I think 3 weeks, in 3 more weeks. So that's it. I'm just reading, studying, learning, and yeah, just a lot of work.
Anything you want to share? Cause you're like when you open up the dictionary and it says invest in yourself, like your face just pops up like
That's
with a big
hilarious.
smile. So
Yeah, I've just been investing in myself, learning, so much to share. I mean, uh mostly it's like internal stuff, like how to really work on my value proposition
mm,
and really think about that, because it's like it's natural to me what value I bring. It's just, my specialties or my forte is more, the visual arts,
mm,
photography and video. So it's like having to like articulate that in writing is like, okay. So, but I think as an exercise, it's pretty good. But I'll probably hire somebody to do it, just like a writer. You know what I mean? Like a
mm.
copywriter that can just do it as well as I do photography,
I love that.
yeah, to like redo all my stuff. Like, um, because, I built my website myself. I do all my, most of my stuff myself. So this year I branched out and started doing more hiring of people to support me with different things, like I do on my own graphics and my graphic design and everything. So this year I hired someone to help me create a logo, and I'm going to implement that logo
Did you feel like you
next
were
year.
stepping outside of your comfort zone by having like help?
No, I mean, I'm used to like working with people, collaborating, that kind of thing. I think
Mhm.
um
But on your own babies, though.
yeah, even on my own,
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah, I work with people whose work I like and people I trust and
hmm
whose vision I respect.
But even that takes a step though, because I see what you asking. Like it took a while. Like it's still taking time for me to learn how to delegate and to let go of a process or something that you created that is yours, and you kind of only trust yourself to do it because it's new. You know what I
Yeah,
Well,
like
mean?
you get used to that. That's
Yeah.
what I
well, the
was
thing
feeling.
is like
Mm-hmm.
you're not letting go. You're
Understood.
leveling up. So
That's
it's
real.
not it's not like letting go. It's like, do you want like yeah, like I went to school and I've been in the business, and so I'm a great graphic designer. I'm a great web designer.
Mm-hmm.
Um there are some wonderful graphic designers out here and some great web designers out here. And my goal, I don't want to design for other people. Like I'm not promoting that.
Understood.
And I'm not promoting my services as a web designer. I don't want to do that for other people. So what I want to do, what I like doing is photography and video. And so my sites look great. They're the style that I want them. So I have an example. So when I work with a graphic designer, when I work with a web designer, I can say this is my style. They could Google me too to see, and look at my social media and get a sense of like my color palette, my style, my voice, my brand voice or whatever. But, and having that conversation, it's like, okay, when they see the level that when a professional sees a level that you speak, right, of their language, and you can speak it to like a certain level of fluency, then they understand like, oh yeah, I could trick this out. I could take this to the next level. So it just levels up everything.
I like that. It's very well stated.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're actually in control, because also when you work with designers and people like that, they actually have to send you versions for you to approve. And so it's a collaborative process, and you are saying, no, I don't like that, or yes, I like this, or maybe more of this or less of that. And then they're coming up with ideas like, oh, when you said that, I thought about this and I thought about, so there's definitely they then and they can take me further than I could take myself. So yeah,
Nice.
you know what I mean?
Time well
So
spent, huh?
yeah, but I'm taking the business classes because I've been in business since I was 8 years old. And I've never, I mean, I've, been in business and in the industry and all that, but, and I've had, business classes throughout my education, but, um, doing these business incubators and accelerators and things like that, helps me, like I said, to have a level of fluency of language. So when I'm working with other professionals on my business, my lawyer, my accountant, a tax lawyer, um, other folks that support what I'm doing on a business level, I have a certain language, I have a certain understanding, um, what is required of me, what is my accountability, what's my expectations, like, where do I want to go, like where do I want my business to go, things like that, and even just conceptually, like how do I want to level up, my presentation, my brand, all that kind of stuff. So it's just doing it, I mean, I do hire people to, do all these things, but at the same time, I'm also, it's like you're driving the car too. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like you also set the map, right? You set the coordinates on the map. Um and that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. You know what I mean? Like just charting the course. So it's just a lot of work. A
Keep it
a
up,
lot of work.
Piper. Keep
Yes,
it up.
yes.
And just a lot of work.
Well, speaking of that,
Mhm.
I think that's a good segue for you, Deja, to kind of bring us our artist of the week.
Yeah, I wanted to speak on young Dolph. He was unfortunately gunned down last week.
Rest in
And
power.
Yes.
yes, rest in power, young Dolph. I just wanted to just give our condolences to his family and his loved ones that are dealing with this very closely, and his fans too, because people really resonated with his music, and my entire social media was hurt by his death, not only because it's not right, but because of just being a fan. Music is really intimate, and when bad things happen to people you love, it just hurts, especially when their music has been able to carry you through a hard time.
That's real.
Yeah. But I also just wanted to highlight how um forward thinking he was in his life, to where he had over 100 rental properties, investment properties in Memphis,
Wow.
and he would buy foreclosures for his kids every year for their birthdays.
Wow.
So he was a very intelligent man. I think he was like 36.
Sounds about right. 36, 37.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, rest in peace.
For sure. Thanks for bringing him into the room. It hip hop is that gift and the curse, like you said. Like the gift is you don't know the artist, right? You've never met the artist. A lot of us haven't as fans, right? But you become, intimate and learn about them and their ways and their patterns and passions through listening to their music. And then the curses is when something happens, right? It hurts, And shout out to Dolph for being a family man too. He had a beautiful wife, beautiful, beautiful wife, beautiful
Yes.
kids too. And, we talked a little bit about it, before the show, that a lot of people don't understand the culture and the legacy and the history of Memphis music. I think that a lot of markets and a lot of cities have music history if you dive deep enough. But I think the Memphis history of music in general, but when you talk about hip hop, they definitely have added to the ecosystem of music, and Young Dolph was one of those contributors for sure. I think about I think about 3 6 Mafia. I think about who else is from Memphis? I think about Yo Gotti, right? You I think if I'm not mistaken, Young Dolph was signed to Yo Gotti at one point. Is that a true statement? Were they never on the same label?
I'm not
No,
sure.
he's independent.
Okay. Well, at one point, I don't think he was. I think him becoming independent was more recent.
I will. Let's look that up and just double check, because I was listening to him on Drink Champs, and they were asking him about that, and he said he's always been independent.
Okay, I could be wrong, and I thought it was more recent. But we want to get into that too. So the point I'm making is that he definitely added to the legacy of Memphis music, sound, the beat structure, the beat selection altogether. A lot of street music, not anything that we would necessarily. I wasn't a huge Dolph listener, but I definitely respected his add to the Memphis stream, And again, his music, his street music, the wasn't necessarily always from an angle of killing and shooting and drug dealing. It's actually from a learning aspect, like the 10 Crack Commandments version, Biggie, shout out Big, but that song goes down in history as a street song, but it's kind of like street music with a lesson, right? So Dolph's music was very similar to, reminds me, his whole catalog reminds me a lot of the 10 Crack Commandments, right? So we haven't even touched on his legacy as a business owner. Does anybody kind of want to take over from where I'm talking?
Yeah. So, well, he I'm not, so familiar with Young Dolph. What you doing, Brittany? You on the phone while we on the podcast live? Hi, Daddy, pay attention.
I'm listening. Can't nobody see.
Doing the camera and stuff. It's all good. But Brittany over here, who you texted?
They can't see me.
Who you texted?
I'm looking up stuff.
Oh, okay. Because I thought Deja was looking it up.
You live on air. You better keep going.
I know, but it's like Deja was looking it up. I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, I like again, I'm definitely a Gen Xer, and I wasn't, necessarily so familiar with his music, or listening to it or whatever, but definitely have been listening to his words, saw the Drink Champs, listening to what folks have been saying about him, and in general, he in terms of his like music business, what he was speaking on is that he chose to go an independent route, and instead of he had learned the so-called game, and instead of following this more traditional path of, look, I'm going to get myself to this level and then seek out a record deal. He decided that he could be the master of his destiny. He wanted to keep ownership of the decisions that he made, um and that he realized that he could keep more money. He started learning some different tactics, like how to, increase his visibility. Um, and he just really learned the marketing strategies and things like that to just stay, to be relevant and be in control of his music career. Now, in terms of his ventures, outside ventures outside of music, he had, like you said, he started purchasing some properties and some businesses so that he could be able to, have a legacy for his children. And so with that, um, you do a sway in the morning. Our show is crazy. Sorry for this stuff in the middle of your tribute, Dolph. But so he basically was saying that he wanted to have, for his children, he wanted them to be able to have access, you know what I mean, to uh like his various ventures. So he was very business minded. He said that he had always been, very business minded. He was focused, right? Like he, was focused on his family. He talked a lot about his family being his main interest and his center. I mean, maybe he didn't use those words, but in general, that's how he, uh talked about his love for his family, his family meaning his blood relatives, as well as his significant other and his children. And so he see, and it was funny because like in the uh Drink Champs, he talked about how he turned down, they asked him about turning down like I think it was 2 million or whatever. And he was just saying that, he knew that he could push himself further, and he kind of knew if they were coming to him with that there had to be more in it. And Nori was like, "Are you crazy? Like I would have totally like sold out and like took that money, and it kind of really showed the, I guess, like the growth, if you will, of the generations and just the information that's available. I know I had sent you, it's a little tangential, but I sent you that video about the difference between millennials and Gen Z, and it talked about how Gen Z is much more savvy in terms of finance and money, and being in control of their careers and making different types of decisions. And so I would definitely put him, I know he's like a millennial, but I think in terms of like his actions or whatever, I put him in the Gen Z category. So oh, it was 22 million. He turned down 22 million, so thanks for that. P Grew hit me up, said it was 22 million. Yeah, so just and like I said, Nori was like, "Are you crazy? I would have been doing this and I'd have been doing that." And he also talked about how he was helping his people that were in his circle, like teaching them, making sure that they're aware about the business, making sure that they, have that same understanding, so that he in turn doesn't just get power and money to become the next oppressor. You know what I mean? So um I really appreciate that, especially as a person. Like that's how I'm hopefully developing, my business and my businesses, is making sure that people around me, are leveling up as well. So definitely respect all of that. I mean, it is painful to see another life, just lost. We don't know the so-called details in terms of like the whys or whatever. But just yeah, lots of love to his family who's really missing him right now, and his kids and his significant others, mothers, cousins, everyone he named, everyone on his label, all the people he was helping. Um, I mean, I guess Brittany, you wanted to shift the conversation to censorship, right?
Yeah, I did. But before that, I want to shout out to Makita's, the cookie shop he was actually murdered at. Is
Mm-hmm.
a black owned cookie shop, which is super dope. You like look on their website. I think they have like 4.8 stars with
Don't they
three.
have a GoFundMe up too?
They may, but at the least, I think the cookie shop allows you to order cookies, and it's the perfect time to support them because it's the holidays, right? So if you like cookies, I don't think they have any vegan cookies, but they're known for their butter cookies, which I've never had a butter cookie. I'm assuming it's like a sugar
Ever
cookie.
in your whole life?
No,
Is it like a vanilla wafer?
It's like a sugar cookie, except it's like super buttery. Like
Mm.
it's hard to
I could
explain, but
taste it, but yeah. So shout out to
yeah, they
Makita's.
have a GoFundMe. Why isn't it coming up? It keeps quitting on me. Maybe it's like too. I don't know. I'm trying to go to the GoFundMe, but if you go, it was put up 5 days ago. I'm trying to go to it to see is it still active. It says keep the history of Makita's bakery going.
Hmm,
Then it's a GoFundMe. It says Makita's cookies, and then it tells, you know, a story. So go to GoFundMe and MAKEDA. So look that up. I'm just having trouble right now. It keeps quitting on me, but
that's dope. I'm glad they have that up there though. I think that's a good look. And
mhm.
just so you guys know, they got TK cookies. My auntie used to make TK cookies. I used to love those.
Mhm.
Sugar cookies, sensational strawberry, pecan cookies, peanut butter cookies, oatmeal cookies, macadamia and M&M, lemon goddess, chocolate chip, and then again their classic butter cookie. So it's just unfortunate that whole story, right?
Mhm.
Everyone loses in that story. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Broad daylight at a store that he wanted to support, always supported. They recognize
Mhm.
him when he walks in every time. This is what I'm being told through the internet, right?
Yeah.
So you hear that, right? And then
Mhm.
now not only is his family mourning, there are other people injured, right? So God rest their healing process. And the owner, right? You're an owner, right? So now you have to kind of restructure and shuffle a little bit. But then you have a consumer that is well known in the neighborhood that just happens to be trying to support you and gets murdered in your shop, right? That's a lot to take in as a business owner. So I really want to uplift them. That's a lot to take in.
Mhm.
But I hope with the bad, depending on how you look at it, there comes some good for them, some more wholesome and some more community uplifting for them. So yeah, I saw a lot of conversation, and you referenced the Drink Champ interview, and I think at a certain point in that interview, Dolph was speaking about at one point his street dealings and being shot before, and
Mhm.
saying, what direction did he think music should go in, and he kind of stuttered a little bit. He wanted to say that maybe there should be some type of a different direction, or maybe some more type of music than just talking about the streets. But then he stopped himself because he said, how do you stop talking about the streets? The streets are literally people's environment. That's where people come from. So other people online, you see a lot of the podcasters, a lot of the YouTubers talking about, the same thing we've discussed in hip hop for forever. Is it the music?
Mhm.
Should the music change? Is if it's a pie chart, right?
Mhm.
That equates to 100%. What percentage on that pie chart is related to deaths outside of the music, because the music is talking about death? So
Okay.
I feel as if there's about, if it's a whole 100% pie chart, I say I say between 30 to 40% is due to the music, because music is affirmation. And I think that when you look at hip hop, you know, as in chronological order, right? And you start seeing where the street influence of goes from maybe talking about the story, right, of being from the streets,
Mhm.
to artists depicting it, and then maybe artists going to me, a little bit more into depth, and then where it becomes glorified.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's a thin line in between telling the story of your environment and a thin line between glorifying it. And I think that at this point, mainstream, what gets played on the radio, what sells, is the glorification of the streets, not the story of the streets. So I think at the least, we should look at how do we peel back from the glorification of it, but not censor the artists to make them feel like they can't talk about where they come from.
Wait, do you want to Deja to answer that, or
What was the question one more time?
So do you think that street music has evolved into more so the artists talking about their environment, or is it more so glorification?
No, I feel like it's more so them talking about their environment. I feel like things haven't gotten better. More people have just gotten the ability to like, what's the word? Tell their stories. We have more like griots now within our within this new generation, and especially people that are able to make their own music on their own and put it out on their own, get their own like, what is it? There's a service where you can buy to put your songs on the streaming services without having to get like a distribution deal. I can't think of it, but all you have to do is buy your ASCAP, I believe, and then make sure you don't have any clearance issues with your music, and you're able to put it out yourself. So I don't know. I feel like it's people just more people have the opportunity to tell their stories, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing how common it is and how bad it is. But like Dolph said, you can't tell someone not to tell their story, and a lot of people are pretty good at writing these poems.
Agreed.
I think also too, this conversation was on Doggy Diamonds. This specific conversation, I mean, his conversation was a bit more layered because he also added things about what we're going through now and the trial and all that kind of stuff. And so, he said something that was kind of funny. I mean, I maybe it's funny, maybe it's not funny, but he was like, what do you think would happen with all these channels, whether they are a record label or whether they're like, a distribution channel like, Apple, Spotify, whatever, YouTube, if he said, because all we hear is about Black death and all these things in the Black community. He said, and so someone wrote in, well, what if it was white people talking about white people? And then Doggy Diamonds was like, nah, what if it was Black people, but talking about how they're doing this stuff to white people?
That's a great question.
He was like, do you think that these brands would get behind that kind of message? He was like, do you think he was like, all these brands, they've got like promoted TikTok feeds with people talking about they're gonna smoke this pack and that pack over someone's life, just all the stuff they're gonna do to Black women, just like all the degradation, right? And he was like, what, do you think that all these major brands, like these soda companies, these drink companies, these t-shirt companies and things like that, would they get behind a Black guy talking about that he was going to do all this stuff to a white woman, or that he was going to do so, they're gonna go to, he was like, what would happen if they said they're gonna take that energy to Wichita, Kansas, was the example he gave.
It's a great example.
Just like go crazy. So that's something to think about too. I mean, it's so layered. Like, I don't want to just leave it within that little window, but that is something to think about. Like, with these brands, and that's with like I'm saying, like, because Deja's example is going straight to like a Spotify or going straight to Apple Music or Bandcamp or whatever.
Yeah,
But
the service I was thinking of was DistroKid
yeah, so DistroKid, same thing. It's the
Mhm.
same, kind of thing. Like
concept.
any of these distribution services, like would the distribution service, you know, allow you to put that music up there, and then B, like, how they all have these like brand deals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like would the
Mhm.
brands get behind that type of messaging?
That I think that's a valid question. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's something for us to digest as music consumers. The one thing that's a pet peeve for me, and I'm not sitting here and telling you that I don't listen to music that people would consider degrading, but it's a pet peeve when I see kids from the suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kids who have no clue
Mm-hmm.
what this environment is like,
Mm-hmm.
but they glorify the damage that lays within the music, right?
But
They're seeing
also too,
there's
those same kids, right? Because um if we look at just all the genres of music, right? Those same kids are the kids who also are singing all the R&B stuff too, right?
well,
Because that's what, like,
I'm
our
telling
music and our culture has been their music and culture for so long,
So when we
you
say
know.
suburban kids, we're not talking about
I'm
black
talking about
kids that
I'm
live
talking
in like
Oh,
them
Southfield.
too.
I'm talking
Them
about
too.
black kids. I'm talking about black
I'm
kids,
talking
Okay.
white
about all
kids, all
kids
of them from the
that
suburbs.
I'm talking there's a difference in I felt as if, right, like I told you, the chronological order of hip hop. Like I'm thinking back to uh Rakim. I'm thinking even as soon as Pac and Big, right? Now some of Pac's and Big's was to me it started crossing the line of glorifying something.
Definitely.
But a lot of it I felt like they were telling a story. Nas, right? He was always telling the story of
I
what he
wouldn't
saw.
put, but me personally,
You can do
I
both
know
at the
everyone
same
says
time.
like Pac was this or that, but I guess because when I think about Pac, also like he wasn't just like, like I'm from the streets. He also came from a home where other things were taught. He went to art school.
Understood.
He was like he wasn't like,
But
to me, what I saw
mhm,
the transformation of Tupac was go from this actor that was playing all these thugs and stuff in these thuggy films, and then took that persona and ran with it, like, oh, this is gonna be my real life persona. And got caught up, and this is my opinion, got caught up in it because of it, because he started believing his own hype of that persona, because that really wasn't him.
right. So
That
that's
wasn't him
that's the point
for
I'm making.
real.
So Brenda had a baby, right? Let's just leave it as surface as that. That to me is telling a story of his environment, right? And then hit him up. That's the story to the point that you're making. I think that's when you start to cross the line into glorification
Hmm.
of the street life that you really didn't live and that you really are not about right now. It's just
Hmm.
you're acting, right?
Well, also too, but I'm saying that to say, when I say he put on the character, I mean, he really was hanging out with, Suge Knight and all the the gang members,
I hear you.
and so he really was living that fantasy.
Understood.
You know what I mean? And I mean, and also too, like, yeah, there was, I mean, like, I think P Groove was on there. He said, a lot of new artists emulate what they see, and that's true, right? Until they come into their own.
Mm,
And to Deja's point is like, okay, um, if we look at, like artists now, you don't have to do, right, like the traditional route. So if someone, and this might be a question to everyone, like if someone, will you purchase and invest in someone that's not talking that stuff?
yeah, I think the person. There's another person that says, "Does this first?" Shout out to Always First Class Media. Does it seem as though the messengers and the examples are being purposely eliminated?
I think that in terms of the mainstream, for sure. Um, yeah, I think the mainstream for sure. Yeah, Kari's on the we gotta get full disclosure. Kari's on there. He said, "What up, people?" He said, "Brittany, switch for someone so you can see between you and Deja.
I'm not being seen
so
today.
Brittany don't want to be on camera today for whatever reason.
Because I'm wearing my company and I don't want to have I'm not promoting my
She
company
wants to
today.
be like Parks.
I am Parks.
Brittany's
Parks on the
Parks
boards.
today.
I gotta do a better job at the boards though for Deja. Y'all can see Deja and Piper. Look.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, but I mean, I think, in the land of like there being like what Deja was speaking to, like the power's only in like certain hands. Yeah, like that is a reality, but the reality that we live now, like the power isn't really only in their hands, and like that's the music that people are still choosing to make. At the same time,
that's because that's what's being eaten up, and that's who the brands are going to follow.
Exactly. So at the same time, so many people are making music. But there's so much music out there.
Radio doesn't determine anything anymore. After radio is like at the bottom of who's important.
But that's to me,
and who these brands get behind, right?
That's a domino effect though for allowing
good streams.
But that's a domino effect for us as a culture glorifying street. Period.
What do you mean? Wait, just explain what you're saying.
So I think that street music is on a peak right now, right? Like, so where Will Smith, Men in Black, here comes the Men in Black, that was the most hip hop you may have heard on 955, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now mainstream music is accepting hip hop, and I think that is the reason why I think street music is what is being consumed the fastest, is because we have allowed it before hip hop has gotten on that mainstream. We've allowed
gatekeepers weren't doing their job. Is what you're saying?
Yeah,
but I think
we've allowed it to circulate. So now that it's big, it only bigger than life, right? That's of course with the heavy beat, right? The reason why it's been on play so long is because it's catchy, right?
It makes money. That's the only thing. If that's the only reason that is there, is it makes money.
But to Deja's point, the consumer wants to hear it, right? The consumer
but it's also too, it's what makes money. But that conversation we had last week with Kari, when he was talking about that meaning the mainstream. And when I say mainstream, I'm not just talking about radio. I'm also talking about these brands, because now the brands are kind of leading, right? Like Complex and who else is kind of a thought leader, like Hype Beast, you know what I mean? Like these kind of spaces where Revolt, like these spaces where people might look to say like, oh, that's a place where like it's not the radio, what I mean? Right. But I just think that this is what makes money. I mean, there's other stuff globally that makes great money, right? Like this trap and this drill music and all this stuff, it's not the only thing globally that's making money. There's a lot of music that's making money globally. It's just that these brands are choosing to get behind this. Trust and believe. If these brands, that's why do you think Afrobeat started to pick up? Because globally, they know that Afrobeat is a popular sound, and it was taking hold across the world. And so now it has, quote unquote, like infiltrated itself into mainstream hip hop. So that's why we're seeing more of the influx of Afrobeat. That's just one example.
Can we blame Drake for that?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess.
Wait, go ahead. What were you going to say?
That was it.
You think
Controller? And what that was Wizkid on Controller, or was that another song?
That was another song, Wizkid. He might have been on Controller, but he was on a different song.
It was that album Views.
That goes back to what we were talking about last week, for sure, right? Like, for sure, Drake, right, has, when you're a bigger off artist and you pick up a sound or you pick up a dance move, right, it brings light to something. But I don't want to digress too much. I do think you said it, Deja, the gatekeepers of hip hop, right? There is, just like the gatekeeper of anything that's precious, right? You have one job, and it's to protect the originality, the root, right? The pureness, right? You're not trying to control artists. You're not trying to control people. But I do think there's a little bit of a better job that we can do.
Who's we?
We as the consumer, we as the producers, we as the artists. It's an ecosystem. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that a dude who wants to talk about how he got shot or he shot up a club or like T Grizzlies, he's giving you, insight on, you know, his first day out, right? Where he's talking about he went to Michigan State, he hit a lick, got caught, right? I don't think that's glorification. I think that's you telling a story.
Wait, repeat that. Repeat just the point part that you're saying. Only because I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
That we all have a job to do, and I think ensuring to always first class media that the work that you're doing, Piper, the artists that you familiarize yourself with, the artists that you work with, right? I think that it's our job to ensure that hip hop stays and has the identity that we know it as. And I think that street music has a lot of pros and cons, but some of the cons are detrimental and have been detrimental.
Is Children's Story a street music song?
It is.
Thank you.
Well, I just said T Grizzly, right?
Yeah, no, my point is that it's always been in the culture. Like, these are real stories.
That's why I just said there's a thin line between street music giving you a story of the environment and glorification.
But what I guess so P Groove is asking, like, why are the rappers go ahead
about the comments, because that's why I asked about Children's Story. Kari mentioned the machine, but it's
at some
real
point
life.
At some point though, y'all, if we don't put any buy-in on what we have to do with some of the things that happen, we are selling ourselves short.
I guess
to think that the artist has no control, the artist should be, of course there's a machine. We always talk about the machine. We always talk about advertisement, the brand. Okay, so when are we going to start talking about what we can do differently?
But this is what I'm saying. So part of like taking control is, this algorithm. You know what I'm saying? Brittany, you gonna be on? We're gonna have to get somebody coming here. We're taking applications for someone to come work the board at Piper Carter Podcast.
Thank you.
So they can focus.
I appreciate it because I really don't want to do it. Let's be clear. But I'm listening.
Yeah. So so for me, it's like, okay, we look at any of these outlets, right? So even though we're not in the radio paradigm, right, it's still the same sort of system. They keep telling us that it's different, but in a sense, it's still the same type of system, right? So what they've done is figure out how to use AI and the algorithms, you understand what I'm saying, to then like do the same job, right? So if they're looking at like how many streams, like Deja was talking about, like if streams are leading, like, who they're gonna get behind, who they're gonna put money behind, you know what I mean? Then that's how your media is gonna get fed to you. I sent you that that YouTube tutorial from the guys at YouTube in the creator studio, who were talking about how they manipulate the algorithm. And basically what they do, they look at now this is just YouTube, but I imagine that a lot of the other channels are very similar. They're looking at, Netflix, like whatever, we can put this, P Groove was saying, how come it's just the rappers? What about movies? For me, it's all of it. Films, all of it. But they look at like your streams, right? Which is the same thing that they did back in the day. They look at your purchase. They looked at your purchases. So they're looking at your streams and they're like, okay, Deja likes hip hop music producers. Deja likes eclectic soul music. Deja likes, Jay Dilla. So they're going to be like, Deja might like lo-fi.
Yeah.
Deja
Dilla is not lo-fi. I just want to put that out there. Thank you very much.
No, Dilla's not lo-fi. But I'm just saying, like, because they will push lo-fi to you though, if you listen to Dilla. And so, but that is precisely the point that I'm saying. So if they're saying like, oh, okay, if the algorithm was a bit more natural, if not manipulated, right? Would lo-fi be in the Dilla pantheon? Maybe not.
Okay.
I could see Bobby Caldwell being promoted to you. I could see, DJ Quick being promoted to you. I could see some more Detroit rappers being, promoted to you. But what I'm saying is that it's still the same powers that be manipulating, right, the outcome. And so with that,
I'm just talking about what we can control.
this is my point. This precisely what I'm saying. If they're putting money, right? If they put the same powers put the same money, that was what Kari's point was last week. A lot of it is so psychological that we don't even realize what's being promoted to us. It'll be suggested in your algorithm.
Okay, so I guess with that being said, so basically because of that, there's nothing we can do differently. It's a lost deal.
That's not what I'm saying.
It's
not everything is not all or nothing, Brittany. It's like
that's what I'm saying.
That's
That's
saying,
what I'm saying.
How would you reprogram society? Is like
all I'm saying.
Well, part of it is a bit challenging, because let's say like we're here at Detroit is different, right? We have a whole, Kari built this whole studio and, this whole like network, if you will, right? And so each of us has our own channel. We're each of us is fighting for the same audience, or pushing out there to direct audiences to our voice, to our message, to our channel. How we're talking about the same topics that Joe Buttons and every Joe Rogan or whoever is talking about. How is it that folks are going to those channels, right? Like, what makes a person go to a choice? Part of it is because there's a lot of money pushing the algorithm to push that. Also, on top of that is brand deals. So if Spotify says, "Oh, we're gonna bet on Joe Budden," then there's definitely, or if a Complex is like, "Okay, well, we've paid X amount of money for 4 years ago Joe Budden podcast or Breakfast Club or whatever to be, if Revolt's paying for Breakfast Club to be all up in your not mentions, all up in your timeline and suggestions and on your timeline or in your feed." And like, it was months that I probably didn't watch half of those podcasts, and he was still getting pushed up my feed, right? And so how can our podcast get pushed up that feed? We got to have that same amount of, in that system, you have to have that same amount of money. Because as much as people would like to talk about organic, this, that, and that, for the most part, it's all still pay to play, but on a different level. You know what I mean? It's all still like, you still pay YouTube ads, Google ads, Facebook ads. Like, you still gotta, like we have to pay as a consumer, right, to put our network up there. Whereas like, if we had the so-called same amount of financial power as like a Revolt or YouTube or whatever, we push whatever we want up to the algorithm. That's the point of having your own platforms. That's the argument for having your own platforms, which is next week our conversation. We're talking about the metaverse. So things are going to go into overdrive in the metaverse, But let's read some of these comments. Like, Deja, can you see, what did Chris say?
Where did
Chris Topher.
Oh, okay. It says the cake is already baked for mainstream media influence and progression coming in the future, and the motivation isn't money like we would think. So what you think the motivation might be to destroy the community further, which isn't far off, but I'm wondering what you might be alluding to. Let's see.
Just looking at some more comments.
Kari said, but it says it's not, but there are artists that have more depth than what the machine presents. I just use community and family as an example on point with what Piper is saying. If I let Piper roll the next video. Whomever controls the distraction has the most, whoever controls the distribution has the most influence.
Exactly. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Like, if
I
you
just
have
feel like at this point on this show, that's a dub for us. But I also understand that when we talk, we have to talk and understanding not everybody understands the way that industry works and the way that capitalism works. I get that. I feel like when I make a point, I think sometimes it's making it look like I'm like the conservative auntie that's like, no, like this music has to stop. But I do think that there's some type of truth into when we break things down and we digest things. Where can we be better as a consumer, from the black consumer, right? From the hip hop the hip hop gurus, right? What can we do differently, right? What can we, if we can come together and do a vote or die what do you call it, campaign, and put, where, yeah, the money, what I'm saying is the imagery, right? If black people can come together and figure out different types of campaigns with money, I think we should be able to do it without money and money.
Okay.
I think we have we have more of the ability to create our own value and not worry about, to that guy's point, like Chris's point, it's not that I'm trying to fit into mainstream. It's not the fact that I want to like, somebody had a shirt on the other day that said protect Griselda, like keep Griselda a secret, right? And at first, I feel like
you know how many white people love Griselda?
But the point,
and how many niggas don't know about Griselda?
But dude, that's the point that I'm making.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying to you. What can
and you are talking about the group Griselda,
Correct.
just for everyone listening.
Yes, not Griselda Blanco.
Yeah, you're talking about there is a hip hop group that makes music.
God.
You have to. I mean, Brittany. Everyone might not know who Griselda is.
I just said, oh God, that's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point I'm making is the shirt said keep Griselda a secret, right? So
who the F made that shit?
The point that the person is making, I don't agree with keeping Griselda a secret, is okay, at what point do we not care if Jay Dilla is mainstream, right? If we value him and we protect him and we uplift him in spaces that's gonna root generations, who cares if they play Jay Dilla on WJLB, right? When do we switch? Okay, don't get wrapped up into what I'm saying is in theory, right? In theory, right? When do we create our own value systems when we do create our own value systems, we don't care about mainstream? Is there a line that's being crossed in street music that protects our babies, that protects our legacies?
But this is what I'm saying, Brittany. It's not a either or, right? It's a both and, right? So you're saying it like as it's the old paradigm. Remember, there is, like, to Deja's point, there is so much available to all of us in this very moment. Like, we all have the same choices. We all have the same choices right now. Like, all the same music that exists all at the same time across the planet. Like, we all have access to this music, right? So whether we want to go look at old, music videos, new music videos, like everything from as far back in history, all the way even to like through whatever's going on now into like new innovations, right? Mm-hmm. All that stuff is available to us right now.
People just don't want to go look for it.
Like you were saying, like it's work to go look for music. It's work.
For today's modern native tongue group, like Kari's mentioning in the comments right now, he said, let me read the prior comment that he made. He said it to the person that said, whomever controls the distribution has the most influence. Kari mentioned it will be Vlad. He's like, also, it is unique the way the machine is allowing Adele to have an international rollout based on her voice. Very unique. I just want diversity and options. Hence the 88 to 91 era. I had Native Tongues, NWA, Public Enemy, Luke, Salt and Peppa, Fresh Prince, Latifah, G-Rock. It's a more balanced view of our people, which is true, but that option is still available today.
Yeah.
People just don't want to go look for it. And of course the radio isn't going to put that on.
That's what I'm saying. Where can we do better?
Those artists
what's wrong with holding ourselves to a stand? Like me saying, like Piper, you can't answer that question. You got a whole business. Like your existence is answering my question.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is also too with your question, it's not in either or. It's not like we're not in the 90s.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying in 2021.
Yeah.
Where are the more Piper? Why is it that whose fault is it that more the same neighborhood that Jay Dilla grew up in, you show them a picture of him, they don't know who he is. Where can we do that? Where can we do better? You can't speak to that because you're doing it.
That's generational. People
so that's the point
to tell their kids. People have to do their own work. People have to be interested.
That is
in
the
doing
point
that
I am making. Where does that start? Where do we do the
self?
Okay, then that's
but also
that's all I'm asking.
That's not on a group of people though. Is
yes,
what we're saying.
If it comes on an individual,
people have to want that individually and as a collective. If they don't, then.
So that's the point. Y'all are, that's the place we've been in. Like, that's the point. That is the point fault. That I never said it was the end. I just said it's the collective's fault.
But it's not about fault.
We can't fix it.
It's not about fault. That's what I'm trying to say.
Why can't we fix everything else? Why can't we fight for everything else to get fixed? No, we can't fight for this.
No, this is what I'm saying.
I'm confused.
No, my point is it's not about fault. You get what I'm saying? It's not about fault. What I'm saying is you can't say like, oh, the consumer, it's like blaming the consumer.
I'm blaming everybody. Everyone has a blame.
But the point I'm trying to say also too is, Brittany, it's like let's just start with the generation of how people even begin to develop a taste, right? Like for music, right? I use myself as an example. I'm going to give the similar example I gave from last week. When I was a kid, right, my access, which is much different than kids today, my whole access to music, my grandmother, no, let me go back further. My mom bought me a Flintstone Close and Play record player. I had my first record was a 45. It was Rufus and Shaka Khan, Tell Me Something Good. Probably shouldn't have been listening to a record like that at 4 years old. However, I didn't know what it meant. I was just all into the beat. My dad bought it for me and I played it. Also played my little Cinderella, Bibbidi Boppity Boo, listening to those records. If y'all are from the 70s, y'all know about Turn the Page, Ding, with you get the books and stuff, the Disney books that comes with the record. Boom. That was my musical access, right? Then get a little older, living with grandma. She had the wooden record player. Whatever records I got as a kid, this is before I have a proper allowance. My uncle's buying me, my big cousins are buying, my mom is buying, right? Rapper's Delight is there. All the soul music, these 8-track tapes, like, Commodores, everything Motown. So like all of that. Get a little older as a teenager. I'm getting allowance now. I'm buying my own records, right? So I'm buying a Run DMC and a LL Cool J and stuff like that. Get a little older. I'm buying some tapes. Get a little older. Now I'm on the internet, looking for music on my own. My tastes are developed. I've had, but when I get to the internet, I'm like 20 something. I'm like in the, my mid 20s when the internet becomes available. My tastes I've had like 20 something years for my taste to be developed. And so I'm looking for that. Yeah, I'm open. Like I'm an open person. I'm going to be looking for new music. Look at a kid today. Many of the kids get an iPad, right? Like right out the womb. The initial music they're listening to is all this music that's available on the internet, including everything that's specifically for children. So they have access to their parents' music, which is all the stuff that you're talking about. So that's their whole palette. And plus all the stuff that's like specifically made like just for them. So think of a young person over their lifetime and all of that consumption, what is going to make up their taste. You get what I'm saying? So that's one part of it. The other part of it is access. Like young people have for the last 20 years have had immediate access to some sort of device to be able to develop their own music taste. Deja is a perfect example as a Gen Z, as someone who has a vast music taste because she has all this access, right? So just think about it that way. And also too, I think it's destructive for us to like just make it like, I mean, these stories get lifted up because we're talking about them, but in general, these are not representative of like the entire, business or the entire industry. There's a huge industry out there globally, right? Like right now, Sheila E is like killing the game. I don't know if people pay attention to stuff like that, right? Right now, like there's many artists who are, like capturing the hearts and minds, whether they're from a different country or, here in the United States. So I think it's destructive to just think like to have that conversation to say like
I don't, because I
this
feel
only
like
rules. It doesn't only
we
rule.
were talking. My original question. See, my original question is street music effects on the street, not street music on the effect of
The suburbs.
Yes. I brought that into the equation, saying that was my pet peeve, that people from the suburbs, it's a pet peeve of mine to see them glorify something that they know nothing about and will never dig deep to find the surface of where it comes from. So my question is how does street music impact the ecosystem of people who are living in that situation, right? How do you explain, sir? And I don't want to get all into it because I don't want it to become a destructive conversation, because when we start talking about Chicago, the problem we have on our hands there, and we have had on our hands for decades, right? But that's what I'm not saying. Street music is a representation of all of hip hop. We know that. That's why I said we passed that on this show, right? I'm talking about the relationship between the streets and street music. And if the street music was to change, would it help the streets?
No.
Fine.
Can we change?
Just say no.
poverty?
Yeah,
then-
like
and
that's
then
what
the
you got to
streets
change. Is you got to change poverty and all the conditions.
But even
You
then,
know?
So
to,
there's
to the point of the suburbs,
That's
like
wild.
that just goes back to what we allow, what we gatekeep and what we don't gatekeep.
That's all.
I mean, look at the Motown era. Like people didn't understand that all those Motown acts were the same guys as the Chicago drill dudes. They're the same guys as, all the street dudes. These are the street dudes.
there's nothing wrong with being a street dude.
No, my point is
I got you.
that
Are
what
you
Barry
speaking of
Gordy
image?
did, what Barry Gordy did was created an image so that what was presented to the world was this so-called respectable image of people. But those same guys, it's the same guys. So all that element was still there. There was still the police terrorism, there was still the poverty, it was still the prostitution, it was still the, all the things. It's just that image-wise,
I think that, have you guys watched the
So we need another
elaborate? Have
Barry
you guys no, maybe have you guys watched the elaborate documentaries on Chicago drill music in relation to the streets?
I have
And
not.
how, my God, you have to watch that, and you have to watch how through the music, basically the music, Chicago drill music is just the diary of what goes on in the street. So it basically, not only is it glorifying street music, it's also getting a lot of these brothers locked up because they're putting what they do in the streets in the music, and it literally is becoming how they get caught.
Yeah.
FB, what's the rapper that got killed a couple years ago or last year? Oh man, FBG Duck. His mom was able to help the police by just watching these dudes' Instagrams and listening to their music. You talked about op packs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Op packs becoming huge in music, telling people's moms that they're gonna have to be buying robes for the choir, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about disrespect, right? That's going.
Yeah.
It's too. That's.
But
beyond,
it doesn't mean that those things didn't still exist.
I'm not. Hey, I'm just asking.
For me, I'm just saying what has to be done is like Deja was speaking, fix the system of poverty. Like,
Because then that's
My
not
mom-
a
eradicate
circumstance
poverty.
people can rap about.
I don't know,
anymore.
y'all. My mom grew up poor as hell, right? But she had a neighborhood. She had people who invested in her. I didn't grow up rich, so the poverty thing I can buy. But what I'm saying to you is poverty. We got to stop equating poverty with people doing bad things. Them you can't. Can they relate? Can they relate?
Yes.
Can they relate? But I'm
But
saying like poverty. There are a lot of people who grow up poor, right?
I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying, but what on the
So we
topic that
can't-
we're on, the people that are rapping about having to kill each other to survive, having to
That's
steal
not
from money
surviving. killing somebody and telling their mama that you smoking on they on their
That's
son.
That's
not
their
what I'm
rules.
referring
That's
to.
their rules that they've
That's gang
created.
culture. That's not what I'm
That's their
referring
rules
to in
they
this
created.
moment.
Y'all,
And even then, gang culture is about unity, protection. It's a family thing. They're
I
trying to
don't
look
hear
out
that
for-
being. I don't hear that.
It's not it's
You
not
wouldn't
okay.
hear
It's
it.
fucked up.
We're not in that culture to
All
hear.
right, I'm
That's-
just saying, y'all. If y'all haven't watched the Chicago drill music documentaries that are online, you need to watch them.
I guess what I'm saying is, right, that if we for me, this is just for me, if we continue to blame the consumer, it takes
Their
away
responsibility.
it takes responsibility for like where
I
the
thought
real
there were no
responsibility should
absolutes.
be.
I thought there was no absolutes. And so if there's no absolutes, then everyone has a little bit of.
Everyone is to blame.
Everybody has
It's
a blame.
It's
Yeah,
like
this
So
is
all I'm
true.
saying is
meme.
where do when I say, okay, I did something, you did something wrong. We got this situation based on us both doing something wrong. I don't say to you, I'm not changing because you got some blame too.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm not saying.
No.
Okay.
And
That's
we're
not what I'm saying.
That's what the people should do either.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are choices. There are a lot of choices out here. Like choices do exist. However, for me, the question isn't why aren't people trying to listen? It's like why is it difficult for all the choices to be available to everyone? Like my feed
I'm with you on
was
that
being
for
presented
sure.
to me is probably 9 million. I'm going to guess and say the 180-degree opposite of probably what, you know, young Dolph's feed was looking like.
I'm with you, Pipe.
Can
Rest
we
in
also
peace.
speak on the influence of peer pressure
Yeah, like
and young adults that grow up to play this music around their kids, and then that becomes an influence. Like Piper speaking
I'm
on
speaking
when her
on
family
everything.
gave her that Shaka Khan record.
Of course. So peer pressure, like y'all said, I'm only speaking on. That's why I started with a pie percentage. I gave the imagery of a pie chart, right? I
Mhm.
said, what percentage does street music have in this pie chart? So I said 35 to 40%.
But what is
right.
that based on?
This.
I'm just
all
asking you,
let's
what is that?
Let's move on. Let's move on.
we're trying to
Brittany,
delve into
what I'm
the-
just asking you,
Are
what
you
is
saying
that?
statistics? Are you asking
I'm saying
me?
you're saying where did you get that from? 35%
I'm
of what?
talking about my opinion. I'm giving you a metaphor, right?
Oh, okay.
I'm saying to you that this is in my perspective.
Okay.
There is a pie chart, right? When we
Mhm.
talk about a shift in music and when we talk about street music and its effect on real life, right? How it's affecting the mind, how it's affecting, right? We talk about frequencies, we talk about affirmations, we talk about negative energy, all that. How does street music affect the street? And on my pie chart, I think 35 to 40% of what the artist is presenting in their music, when it crosses the line of telling the story, when it reaches into glorification, has 35 to 40% of the blame. That's my opinion, right? So the rest of the blame, the rest of the pie chart is how y'all pie charts might look different.
I guess what I'm saying
you're
is
saying your pie chart is 70% of the issue.
I'm not
is
saying
the
that. I'm not
It
saying
may
that.
be the machine.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the same conditions that have existed in the so-called ghetto or across the world. If you go to the favelas in Brazil, if you go right now in Haiti, if you go, I mean, just like across the world, the same conditions of poverty in Black, spaces that, justify, Black fratricide or Black murder, right? Those conditions, like the same conditions that make it like okay to show on TV, like Black people getting murdered or constantly have these news stories, right? The news media, I would say, is just as a culprit as well.
I do
putting
agree.
stories every time you see Black men in handcuffs, Black people fighting,
Mugshots.
Black people's mugshots
Agreed.
for different things, right? So what I'm saying is that yes, the music is an illustration of, art imitating life. And yes, life does imitate art. At the same exact time, though, the world that we live in right now, this 21st century world
Mhm.
that we're living in right now, to Deja's point, a lot of young people aren't going to television, and a lot of young people aren't
I
going
don't.
to radio, right? So, but my point is, those same forces, that same conglomerate, the same money people that are behind all the commercials that are on TV, they're controlling your algorithm and what you see on the internet.
I agree.
So even if, let's just say, you're a kid, and I'm gonna just make something up. You live in Jersey City, New Jersey, or you live in Detroit or LA or whatever. Your parents grew up listening to, Soulja Boy, right? That's gonna be on your palate. Like, you're gonna love Soulja Boy because your formative years. I don't know, when did Soulja Boy come out? Like 15 years
2007.
ago. So for 15 years ago, right? If you're 30, right? Soulja Boy was, oh my God, like, growing up, you love Soulja Boy. So now you're 30, that's in your pantheon, that's in your palate. You get what I'm saying? Because it was pushed to you in
100%.
down in your psyche. And the same thing now with all these young people. So what I'm saying is that and it's what I'm arguing, is there is a reset button with this metaverse. There is a reset button with people being able to control what platforms they want to go on, create their own platforms, and make choices. So for me, I like the conversation about pushing more people to, like, look elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
So
Because in
that's a
these
good
spaces,
question.
people are gonna push this
So
crap
just like
to you.
how you said that the same influences that push the algorithms for radio and TV are now pushing it for YouTube and for the internet, you don't think them same things is going to be inside of the metaverse?
They're definitely there, but the metaverse is a bit different in the sense that
That's what I'm just saying.
all of these platforms are pre-created.
Okay, we'll see.
The
I'm excited.
metaverse at this moment, right? I'm just saying, at this moment, is like pretty open.
Okay.
It's pretty open.
Like the internet was, correct?
Like the internet was.
Okay. All right.
And in a sense, how the internet kind of sort of still is. Like I said, my algorithm, because I do things like, go through and look at, like, what I'm searching, and then make sure that I balance out my algorithm by searching some different stuff. Because if I've been going down some dark rabbit hole, I know that it's as soon as I start seeing some stupidity that I don't want to see, I'm like, oh, they mistaken that I wanted to see this crap. So I start going down another rabbit hole to bring up something else.
We got to
on my
touch on a couple
algorithm.
other things, but I want to say shout out to Asa, who's going to be on our show soon. He has a book out called How to Make the Hood Healthy Again. And that's all I'm saying. How do we, he asked the question on a book title, how do we make the hood healthy again, right? It's not, oh, well, Asa, well, see, the mainstream is forcing hot Cheetos is all and all the vending machines, right? I'm just asking a question. What can we do to make hip hop a little bit, make it more palatable for the streets? How does so that the streets can win more, right? Get back to the originality of what gang was.
Deja, we have to get our message into the streets.
Agreed.
We have to get our message into the streets.
Agreed.
and make it so that people want it.
And I agree. Do that the easiest way, by the radio, like there was before cell phones and stuff. Everybody has, I won't say everybody has, but a lot of people have to get in some sort of car to go somewhere. A lot of radio, a lot of people, when I say people, I mean people that are transporting their loved ones, or even like Lyft or Uber services. They are listening to something. So you're getting information somehow, some way, when you get in a vehicle of some sort. So I just see why not change the message there, but other things have to change in order for that.
I agree with that always, but there's so much.
Be the simplest way to get started.
I think so too.
Not simple, quote,
but on the surface, right? Like the low hanging fruit. Is that what you're saying?
The radio is not the low hanging fruit.
But see, so I see. But the radio, I'm not gonna hold you by default, right? When I get in my car, if my Bluetooth is not on, right? If I'm in thought, guess what is transcending through my waves? The radio.
But even radio, right? So XM radio or
I'm
whatever.
just gonna say who
It's all
owns
the
iHeartRadio.
iHeart, whatever.
All
Like
Right, right,
that.
right.
it's
All a
all the same
corporation.
beast. It's all the
Yes,
same
it is.
Agreed.
corporations that
Yeah.
are looking at the same metadata.
Data.
That's all they care
Metadata,
about.
right.
Spins and likes and all this crap. So I'm just saying that to say that now we the larger we have access to like all of this information.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think that's
wide
a I
open.
think that right there is
It's wide
a
open.
campaign selling point, Piper, is right. Do you not understand what you truly have access to? Right? Do you understand the origins of even what you're listening to? A lot of this music, speaking of Memphis, a lot of the drill music in Chicago, a lot of that Atlanta trap comes from Memphis, right? A lot of the Migos flow, Memphis. That's Memphis, right? But do they know that? They probably know it now because people been talking about it lately, right?
I mean, but regardless if it's from Memphis, if it's
But
from LA, if it's
I'm
from
just saying there's a history to
Brazil.
it, right? There's more when you appreciate the legacy and understand how to appreciate the origins of something. Like when you taste a glass of wine, right? And if you taste it and go just for the taste bud, it's like, oh, what is this? But if someone is telling you that this is a dessert wine that was comes from a certain region, right? And it's this and it's that, even if you taste it and don't like it, you have an appreciation
You
for
might
it.
not though.
That may be true too, right? That may be true
Depending on
too.
the person.
But you tried it,
the
right? You
character.
knew that you knew that you were tasting something. So y'all get the point. I get y'all point.
So Queen, Akari's point is just basically saying that in these, like globally, he named, the streets of Port-au-Prince, in Haiti or Sao Paulo and, Brazil or Baghdad are full of what we perceive as violence without the cultural context to understand. Whereas hip hop could be that if it's other messages in poverty too. And then Queen Yomin says, discard hip hop and start something new. Hip hop has been corrupted. You can't bring it back. What do you think about either one of those? Oh, and I'll say the other one. So always first class media says the maturation process from young person to adulthood has been genetically modified. So you guys got responses to any of those?
Deja, you want to tap that?
You can go first.
You sure?
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree with Pipe saying there's no absolutes. Like I think that we as the originator of anything, nothing has it's been corrupted, but it's not over. Like hip hop is nothing but music is nothing but a frequency, right? So hip hop is nothing but a frequency. So frequency can be bent. It can take many forms. So that's why I asked the question, like, what can we do on an individual as a collective level, right? Piper, it's tough for her to answer that question because literally she's already, I'm not trying to do her like that, but she's doing it, right? She said, I'm not going to sit here and wait for mainstream to, satisfy my appetite when it comes to music. Not only am I not going to wait to do that, I'm going to start my own. I'm going to get a building. I'm going to put women in a position where they can feel free to bring their families so they can rap, they can get off. And guess what people started doing when she did 5E? She couldn't get brothers to stop coming. Then once they started coming, guess what? They started protecting the space. They had a role to play because guess what? She said, I'm not going in that direction. I'm going in a different direction, right? So with that being said, I understand your opinion. And there's a lot of the times like when Nas got upset, hip hop is dead. You know what Soulja Boy, speaking of Soulja Boy's response was to that in 2007? He said hip hop is dead because he said it. Just like when Lil Wayne said he's the best rapper alive, he became the best rapper alive because he said it. So we have the ability to speak power into anything, affirmation. That's why I can't wait till we get into the King Richard movie, right? So I hear you, Queen. It is disappointing, but I think it's important for us to have these conversations and for other people who think way differently than me to have these conversations. But I don't think hip hop is dead. I don't think it's I don't think it's fully corrupted because it started from a pure form, right? When something starts from a pure form, it can get corrupted, but I feel as if you can always bring it back to its original state.
Or it may transform, just like it's continuing to transform.
That's true too.
What I was gonna say, it's just evolved, and yes, a lot of generations have had their own music, but if you look at how long Black people have been able to have their music broadcasted. It's not that long.
That's true, Deja.
So hip hop is still a very young genre.
It's
It's
true.
only what 40, 50 years old.
Very, very true.
That's very young. Before that, we had like what R&B that came out of the church music,
Mm.
with
Mhm.
as well as blues, like, which is just Southern instruments and just making what they could with what they had.
True.
So I don't know. I hate that statement, to be honest, that hip hop is, but that it belongs to another generation when it's just evolved. If that's the case, why was SWV a thing when we already had the Supremes?
Right. Right.
Did we need?
Well,
Did we?
in my opinion, let me keep it to myself. Let me keep it to myself. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know everyone loves SWV, and that is my generation. But I was like, and to be real, my mom's generation thought that the Supremes was lightweight too. For real.
No, that's real.
They were like, oh, okay, they're singing these little songs, and because
this ain't 14th
Florence
Street.
Ballard was the main singer.
doubt,
she
I
was
get
singing
it.
soul, and then Barry Gordy was like, no, we need to go more pop. So he put Diana Ross's voice on there because it was lighter, and yeah. So I mean, all of these, all these transformations that we've been, going through, do it, to Brittany's point, transform society for real.
No doubt.
Like the Supremes and what Barry Gordy did and it happening during the civil rights and Black Power era, did transform.
Got more secular after that. We transformed even what the white people were listening to. Their music got more
their
secular.
kids.
Yeah,
their kids had that under the pillow. Their kids had the real Chuck Berry under the pillow, and their parents would come out and they throw out the the Lawrence Welk version or whatever, no, and act like they was dancing to that,
No, we feel you, Queen, and that's why we've been talking for hour 22, and we didn't know it was going to evolve, and it is to speak on the word evolve. But I feel you,
she
Queen.
Said devolve.
No, I said to speak on the word evolve because we've been saying evolve a lot, But I feel as if nothing. It depends on how you look at it. Depends on what angle, right? There's still some beautiful Queen. There's still some beautiful pieces still coming out by some amazing hip hop artists.
My gosh, Queen! Street because they don't want you to hear it. Queen. They don't want you to go look.
But it's
for
there,
it and it's not gonna be.
I'm talking about breathtaking to the point where you don't even care about what comes on the algorithm because you're in your own space of listening to music. I'm talking about even my hip hop experience is so beautiful, Queen, or anybody that's listening, because of what has come before me and what I can feel is gonna come after me. You know what I mean? My hip hop experience is beyond. We talk about the street, right? Because we know there. I think we all deep down know that there's some connect to we can do a little better, right? But even with that being stated, right, my hip hop experience is no one can touch it. Like, I'm telling you, I have been blessed through hip hop. Hip hop, in a way, I said this before on a podcast, was a father to me in ways that my father couldn't be. I learned so much about masculinity through hip hop.
But
also toxic. Also not saying it's perfect. Not saying it's perfect.
All I'm saying is that is her point. Is that the hip hop has devolved, and
that's a good point, Deja.
Mainstream offerings. I will say that, Queen. Mainstream offerings that are presented to families and the public and the general population has devolved.
That okay.
And my only point is to that is, number one, like Brittany said, that's why I created a whole hip hop company that does quite the opposite. We put out healthy hip hop, right? And that at the same time, we're just in this time where we have access to so much art, music, and information that we can, like you're saying, Brittany, we can shift, right? Conversations like this help the shift. There's a whole bunch of podcasters that are like this. There's a whole bunch of DJs that are like this, like Soul Election Radio, shouts out to them. On SoundCloud. Like, there's just so many offerings in the ethers that like I said, I'm actually personally excited about the metaverse. People are looking at it like as a financial, up, which is great because we will see the biggest wealth transfer. I'm looking forward
That's
to
real.
it in terms of a huge cultural shift.
Now, what else? We're gonna save
Hopefully.
metaverse, but Piper, I will say, I had a boss who we let's just say we had a new system that we weren't used to and we hated it. My boss hated it. We said it was the worst and we weren't gonna get with the new system that my company provided, and we were Detroit and we didn't need this system. And guess what? It was inevitable. So we became behind the 8 ball because we fought it. And he told us I like this man and did not like this man for several reasons, but I still learned from him. And he says, I fought this system with you. I failed you as a manager. I should have told you what I didn't like about it, but I should have also told you it was inevitable and that we needed to get in front of it. So I do believe the metaverse is inevitable. Staples Center, which is when you say Lakers, you think of Staples Center. People who don't know basketball look at the LA basketball arena as Staples. They have changed their name to crypto.com. That is huge.
Well,
It's
they're trying to get ahead
inevitable.
of it.
It's inevitable.
Well, Queen says, we're gonna change the subject, but I just want to acknowledge Queen Yo Mean's last couple of comments. She said, it is, I agree, wonderful artists and music, but these corporations have corrupted and infiltrated the movement. Get them white folks out our business and we can get back to something pure. And then she said, thank you, ladies. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Me too. Me
Pure
too.
fact.
Right?
Pure fact.
That's a good way to go to the next topic.
Let's bring another queen in the room, Pipe. Let's give some love to Malcolm X legacy. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
So, yeah, I said power ascension to the youngest daughter of our beloved freedom fighter Malcolm X, our beloved sister Malikah Shabazz. She was a twin sister. On my show, I don't really want to go into. She's just passed. I want to let her spirit have a minute to even make an ascension into paradise. So I don't want to go into her past or challenges that she had in this moment. I think you can look all that up on the internet. I do want to say that she was a twin. She leaves behind her twin sister, Malak, as well as her other sisters. There were 6 sisters in total. Her and her twin were actually in their mother, and rest in peace and bless her legacy. Our beloved sister Betty Shabazz, they were in her womb during the assassination of their father. So they came here in that trauma, in the aftermath of that trauma. They experienced that trauma while they were in the womb. And what I will say is that trauma had followed their family for generations. And none of us could, unless you've been through something like that, could possibly even imagine the pain and the anguish that our beloved sister Betty Shabazz went through, that all the family went through. And there were multiple tragedies that happened from the grandson, which was Sister Kabila's son, that unfortunately set the house fire, that murdered accidentally his grandmother, to the pain that she must have been going through as a mother, you know just dealing with that. And then he was murdered, um 2013, I believe, at the age of 28. He got beat to death in a bar, supposedly over, I think it was like $1,200. And uh And then they say it was an unpaid bar tab, um, and they say possibly some. They said female company or something like that. But yeah, just the pain that he must have been living with or had to live through, or heal from, and then again, that their family just consistently has to deal with. And in her uh legacy is her daughter. Her daughter found her, so much love to her daughter, who actually was the one who found her. Yeah, condolences to the entire Shabazz family. Just having to find your mom, you know, um, having passed out. They say it was from natural causes. Um, and yeah, she does have a history of we'll call them legal challenges. Um, some of them look a little bogus to me, but again, I wasn't there and can't really speak to the validity of them. But she did have challenges with her two of her sisters regarding the legacy of their father. Some disagreements within their family, but you know that's what families do, is have differences over things. And yeah, just want to send lots of love and appreciation. Like I said, I don't want to, she just passed away, so I don't want to dig in. You can look up on the internet like her legal challenges. At this moment, I just want to send her family, condolences and love. And I just want to lift up her spirit and just pray that she is welcomed into paradise by our beloved creator. And ironically, last week, two of the gentlemen, I know their original, when I say original names, the names that they had when they were in uh, the nation, but two of the brothers who were accused of pulling the trigger or being a part of the plot to kill Malcolm X and being so-called caught in the scene by police. Because of the documentary that came out, I think the documentary now is like a couple years old. I saw it at least 5-6 times. Who Killed Malcolm X on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still on there, but the brothers are Muhammad A. Aziz and Khalil Islam. So they were exonerated, and um, if I'm not mistaken, is it the brother Aziz who had passed away, or is he the one that's still alive? Um, but these brothers are now exonerated from, I mean, at the time, I mean, even according to the documentary, it was said that they um well, what they said was that they were involved, but they didn't like pull the trigger, right? So um man, that's a lot of that's a lot there. I know I've talked to a lot of people from the nation about the documentary, and as you can even see in that documentary, a lot of people are like still pretty shook to talk about it. A lot of people still don't want to you know still don't want to even be seen speaking on it. Some of the some of the people who were there are still alive. Yeah, so um yeah, there's just like a lot. Oh, and the other thing I left out was the mother um of Malcolm, the grandson. His mom is Sister Kabila. She was actually I want to say, I'm gonna use the words in trouble, with the FBI, there was a person who she had gone to school with who was actually an FBI informant who befriended her or she befriended. I'm not really, sure how that relationship began, but it is said that she offered him, I suppose, was like $45,000 to kill Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan, whom she blamed for the murder of her father because Betty Shabazz blamed him for the murder. And there was like a ceremony held, man, I don't remember the year, but Farrakhan did hold a ceremony where he and Betty Shabazz made peace in front of everyone, and they raised about 250,000 to I think it was either like have her charges dropped or, remedy the situation. And so yeah, like that's just another, there's just so much, like, that they really wanted to get Malcolm X, and they really did a lot to like terrorize his entire bloodline. So again, I want to definitely send the entire family love, protection, um and some peace, because it's just been so much, just so much. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add? Or
I just also wanted to send my condolences to the family. It was really unfortunate to read that on my phone. I didn't believe it when I saw it, and I didn't want to think that it was true either, just because of all the controversy that family has had over the years. Just another thing that's really unfortunate. So blessings to them. It seems like there's always crazy things happening before the holidays. And I know that's going to affect them too. So I'm also just sending them all of our love and peace.
For sure. Deja speaks for me. Rest in power in Ascension. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So
ladies, we're at $1:37. What do you think? Keep going? You want to hit another topic? You want to leave it for next week? How do you want to do it?
Well, I definitely, before we go, I definitely want to say, I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep saying it. Investigate the judge on that Rittenhouse.
That's the most powerful thing you said.
Investigate that judge on that Rittenhouse trial.
It was like he was a paid actor.
He needs to be investigated. He interfered with real justice. He impeded on the ability for there to be any justice. His meddling into the process, his corruption of the process, his manipulation of the process. Like I mean, he needs to be, investigated like thoroughly. I don't know. I'm gonna put a period there because I could go on and on and on, but I'm really hoping that the activists get on that one. That's the one. What's the attorney that comes out and gets the dough for everybody, but he don't get no dough for nobody?
Oh,
what's his name?
I can't think.
Can the chat help me? Who's that black attorney? He's on everybody's trial.
The one they tried to get for Nipsey's case? Chris
No, not Chris Darden.
Oh.
He was the one he was the prosecutor for OJ.
Always first class said Ben Crump.
Crump. Thank you. Always first class. Ben Crump. That's what you need to do. Take that money that you took from all those other folks. I would say this would actually be, remember Samira Rice?
Yes.
Was talking about how all these activists are taking people money and they don't do nothing, and she threw him in the trick bag too and said Ben Crump was in there snatching people's money too. I think this is where all of the top famous activists, I'm gonna shout out to Tamika Mallory, Linda Sarsour, I'm gonna shout out to you, Ben Crump. I'm gonna say all eyes need to be on that judge. Go after him, whatever you got to do. Because the thing is, if that man can be on national television and commit that kind of thank you, Queen, can commit that type of corruption in public, imagine how much havoc he's causing on citizens or has been. Just imagine how much he's already been, right? Doing behind closed doors. If that's his public facing, right? Imagine how much he's been doing and how much and letting him sit there, how much more damage he can do. And also, for me, I mean, I just think that we really need to, when we talk about like defunding police and we talk about like flipping the system and we talk about what could be done, we just had a whole conversation talking about people need to change. This is one of the changes that I think activists need to, like, especially the public, really famous activists need to like jump on, is really start putting a laser sharp focus, you know what I'm saying, around, and not just the Tamika Mallory's, right? I mean, even like our media folks, right? Like the Rachel Maddows and Van Jones and these people with these huge, Roland Martin, like people with these huge platforms to have these types of conversations. I want to see more people. I want to see these folks having this conversation about what's going to be done with this judge, and the judge needs to be investigated.
With that said, too, we can do some research next week, and we can give a little bit of a segment on this judge. That might not be a bad idea. So, yeah, that is, man, that's the perfect way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Quick question: do you guys think that people backed by like the NRA have higher chances of winning legal battles?
Yeah. Probably.
Great question.
Because they got a lot of money.
What?
They got a lot of money.
Do you not know there was a whole?
They got a lot of money.
I don't know if it was a GoFundMe, but
lose.
they put a lot of money behind this. Like, you got to understand that they as in a segment of people. I don't want to really get too much into it, but they don't understand history, and they think when we say put George Floyd on shirts that they look at it as the theory of George Floyd, not George Floyd specifically, right? That, oh, we're glorifying him and, oh, he's a hero. So this is their version of George Floyd, right? Now the kid is not quote unquote a victim, right? But this is their whole narrative. There's money behind this narrative. This is a us versus them situation, right? This is a win for them. This is how they look at this. They put effort into this, right? People are happy, like they just won a championship, right?
Like the Capitol.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is rooted, like when people said Trump being in office was a direct effect of them showing us that they could elect somebody just like we elected Obama, right? That same type of quote unquote vibe, right? So this is it's like Piper said, it'd be interesting to see what effect this has in the long run on our legal system. And, I think starting with the judge is 100% correct, right? And to answer your question, Deja, again, yes, like specifically this case, because this guy is not a self-imposed hero, but a specific group's hero, right?
He is a self-imposed wannabe.
Yeah. This is
because that's the narrative that we as society have been fed. And thank you, always First Class Media said great dialogue. This is the narrative that we've always been fed, right? Like if you look at any mainstream like television show, movie, whatever, it's always that there's this white guy who knows more than everyone. He outsmarts everybody. He comes through with his gun, and then he kills the antagonist, and in the end he shoots and blows everybody up. Like this is like a normal sort of plot / ending for pretty much most of the media that you'll see. And so this is people's real life fantasy, like, yeah, this is like their, version of, you know, what they want to see in their uh ABC weekly special, or their, this is like the misogynist version of the Lifetime movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like just a ridiculous fantasy.
Yeah, it is the whole. I mean, it's so much to unpack on this case from just like so many angles of like, the gun charges being dropped, right? Like from how the judge reacted, right? We all agree that the judge though is like the may have the most like legal, where you can make a shift legally, right? The way that the judge was acting, we all can agree with that, right? But
Possibly.
right. And then just the fact that, the argument, well, no black people were killed, right? But these were
Yeah,
people
but
fighting a black issue, right?
regardless,
And
if it's a black issue or whatever issue, the point of the matter is that people were killed.
agreed.
That someone took a gun, went and killed people.
And then to say that, the fact that he was able to drop the gun charges because it was a family gun. I just like, I
Unreal.
ask people who agree with the verdict, right? Who say, oh,
People who agree with the verdict, Brittany.
What?
Watch your back.
I know black people who agree with the verdict that say that there's been
They
black
trolling.
that say that
Did they say that in front of white people, or they said that when y'all was by yourself?
No, listen. There's people who say like they rather this case go this way and the Ahmed Aubrey case be a different.
It's not a
right?
one don't have nothing to do with the
but
other.
I'm just telling you the opinions that are out there.
That's not their opinion. They're saying that. I'm willing to bet they said that in front of white folks.
This is on the internet, so yeah, it's in front of white people.
Yeah,
but the white people that I know that agree with this verdict, they have so many different arguments of why it's okay. And I just I said, this is what is the most upsetting about you being okay with this case, because I have to talk hypothetical, because the hypotheticals have existed before, right? If this was a 17-year-old black kid who goes to the insurrection or the riot that they put on at where was it exactly? Was it
Kenosha?
No.
What are you talking about?
When they stormed the Capitol. What was that? The Capitol?
Yeah.
So if it was a 17-year-old black kid who says, I'm from DC, I'm sick of all these white folks coming in DC. DC is a 70% district. I'm protecting black. I'm about to protect my people, because who knows what they about to do tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And comes to the Capitol and ends up shooting 3 people
that wouldn't make it that far.
Come on, let's be real. Like all this legal stuff. What makes it bad is if the same type of things that were used in this case to win it would have been an automatic loss if it was a black kid. And that's just the argument. Like when you try to have a discussion with people who agree with this verdict, even see.
But let's just understand. Kari says it's a mix of conservative black folks that are using that platform. Why it works, self-defense is a joke. But just remember that, okay, I don't believe that you can convince racists, okay, to have a heart.
Of course not.
Just like I don't believe that you can convince rich folks to care about poor people. So that's just, I haven't really seen it. So the way you get rich folks to act, or let's say like if it's rich folks, poor folks, the way you get rich folks to act is you got to speak their language and you hit them in the money.
It's true.
And then they're going to be like paying attention. And it's the same thing with a racist. You know what I'm saying? You got to hit them and take away their power. Like the only reason that this is able to be this way is because to a certain degree, they're given a certain level of power. If you take away their power, okay, that's how you start to shift. Just like 2012, when Black Lives Matter was just a hashtag, right? Um, the conversation about police violence or police, terrorism, people were afraid to really, when I say people, I mean like in mainstream, really didn't want to touch it. It was a so-called a black issue. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't until the movement started to make some dents, when it started making dents into the fabric of society, and young white kids, okay, when the young white kids were being impacted, that's when it was like, oh, now we understand. Now we get it. Like take you got to take something away from people. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and if you look at it in a level of violence, the violent person would say you have to take someone's life away. But I'm not violent. So I wouldn't say like take someone's life away. I'm more of a, especially not on the air. I would say you have to take these people's power away. And one of the mechanisms, I'm not saying the only mechanism, I'm saying one of the mechanisms is to look at each of these systems and start to defang the beast. So when we're looking at like, okay, this judge has maximum power. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why he's able to do really, I mean, in all regards, it's really illegal what he did. Okay. It's just that he's so close to the line. Now, for me, like, if I was the attorney on the case, you know what I mean? Or involved in some type of way, I'd be like, okay, we got to go back and investigate all these people because they're corrupt, and push for that. Now, to me, unless and until we start like dismantling these people who have power, you know what I'm saying? They're going to continue to sit in power and then continue to be able to do whatever they want to do, to people. So, you ask like what could be done? How could we change? It's not the quick and easy route. You know what I'm saying? Like, which is the reason that people do demonstrations, right?
Right.
It's the reason people do direct action. It's the reason people do violence, because that's gonna be the attention getter. Mm-hmm. The person who goes in there and does the most violent thing and hurts the most people is gonna get everyone's attention. And then all of a sudden, people are gonna be trying to figure out what to do. But again, I wouldn't advocate for any of that, because I want to see a system change for real. I don't want to I don't have a belief like that, okay, the violence is going to fix things. That's not my personal value system of violence. You know what I'm saying? My personal value system is that I want something different. So I believe that there's a higher power who's got all of this and all of us and is really in control. But like down here on a 3D level that we still dealing with, although we have civil rights bills and acts and laws and all these things, you can see there's just like so much more that needs to be done. And on top of that, I will add, there's a lot of people doing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. That's the good news. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things. So it's not,
seeds are being planted.
Not only that, it's a lot of work being done. It's a lot of work being done. Like whether it's in small communities or on a larger level, like, there's a lot of work being done. Mm-hmm. So I always like, we talk about like, you spoke earlier, Brittany, about I forgot who you said it, but about speaking into existence. Did you say Soulja Boy?
Yeah. Which was the most, I'm not supporting Soulja Boy, but the concept of what he was saying.
Speaking into existence. Like for me, that's so powerful. So even just speaking the power into existence of like what people are doing, uplifting that. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that's something we could be doing.
Yep.
Just continue uplifting that. So anyway, I didn't mean to get on a soapbox.
No, man.
Next week you better get on camera, Brittany, because
No,
people are texting me that it's weird looking at me and Deja while you talk.
Okay, watch the Joe Budden Pass podcast, and I'm not as much of a weirdo as you think. Parks talks a lot.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if I gotta be on camera, okay, and I'm about to be 50.
Do you want me on here broadcasting this company? No.
No, and that's why I say you could just turn your hat to the back.
And then they're gonna be thinking like, who is that gangster girl with talking
No
about
one
street
will
music
ever
with her
think you're
hat
a
to that
gangster.
back?
No one is ever going to confuse you with a gangster.
What?
That's like somebody confusing me as a gangster.
I mean,
It's hilarious.
you're a pretty one, but you're a gangster for sure.
Hilarious. But yeah, we could save the rest of the topics for next time. I
That's
wonder
cool.
are folks still hanging with us? I know I was over here just like going on and on. This guy pissed me off.
This has been great.
Freaking
I
judge.
really appreciate this chat. And people in the chat, if you feel compelled, please tell other people. We're our goal is to be on consistently every Tuesday, by 7 p.m. Today we got on at 7:30. It'd be great to see you guys return and chat and talk to us as we're talking, and then to tell some friends. So we're gonna try to make this a more of a collective as we move along. Like we said 2 episodes ago, we're getting back into a rhythm. We got new equipment thanks to Kari.
Whoop, whoop.
Thanks to the things that happen over the summer for Detroit is different. We have some beautiful guests coming. We have some segments that we're going to be adding in, and so I'm really, really looking forward to the podcast. Shout out to Jira, who's going to be leading our tech report. He's going to be back with us soon. So, thank you guys so much for being in the chat. We really appreciate all that.
Yeah, it says so that was Queen Yo Mean says love the vibes, peace queens. Always first class media says see everyone next week. That's what's up. Kari says we love Piper. But Britt, you should be on camera too. He said get a Kamala mask.
So silly,
and
Kari.
do the podcast, Britt.
No, this is the last time. I just
he
wasn't
said
in
you
a
got us
position.
going. And just appreciate everyone, and also too P Groove.
Hi,
And
P
just appreciate
Groove.
everyone listening and tuning in. Please share the podcast, share, like, subscribe, as they say, and click that bell. But and we're also, we're on YouTube. We just started doing our lives on YouTube, like 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
But we're also on all streaming platforms. So we was talking a lot of trash about Spotify, but tell your friends to go there and listen to our podcast, as well as iHeartMedia and Apple Podcasts. And did you guys want to leave us with any? Oh, Kari, tell us the NFT information.
Good point.
So we can share the NFT information, and if you could type it into the chat, because Detroit is different has an NFT, y'all, and it's only like $250 for people who invest into the Detroit is different NFT. But before we go, Brittany, what words of wisdom do you want to leave us with, Miss Elevator Operator?
Oh, stop it. I enjoy this. I think that we always have to push the limit of conversation and not be afraid to. I love when you I threw up the pie chart, right, and said, oh, this percentage, right, in my own metaphorical way. Like, so I'll say that I think it's really interesting to see how where people agree and then where the disagreements start to happen, right, on like a flow chart, right, and then always, like I said last week, it's okay to agree, it's okay to disagree, but always think productivity, right? Are we being productive? Are we pushing something? Are we going in a direction we want to go in? Whether we agree or disagree, have a different opinion, a free thought. If it's not productive, how can we be more productive? Think productivity. And I don't think it's anything wrong with that. I think that that's a word that we can put our own definition to. It doesn't have to be a corporate word, right? When we think of productivity, we don't have to think assembly line. We have to think productivity in a sense of spirit and soul and connection. That's what I mean about productivity. So,
and what about you, Deja? Do you want to leave us with any words of wisdom?
Just use your brain. Everyone use your brain. Again, stay aware. That's always going to be my word of the week or message of the day, I guess. But all we can really do is be aware and make informed decisions on our awareness. with self and with others, with surroundings. So just stay aware, stay woke.
Love it.
Yeah, I guess for me, I just want to give lots of gratitude to my co-hosts who come through and give lots of wonderful thoughts and commentary and share your vibes and your brilliance with me and all of us and create the value that we have here at Piper Carter Podcast. And much appreciation to our proprietor, Kari Way Frazier, the owner and creator of Detroit is Different and the Detroit is Different podcast network, and just want folks to continue supporting the Detroit is Different podcast network. And you can go to detroitisdifferent.net to see all of the various podcasts that are on the Detroit is Different podcast network, including Detroit is Different After Dark. And you can uh, go on our social media. You could go on to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for and YouTube for Detroit is Different, as well as for Piper Carter Podcast. And just appreciate everyone and just want to give much love to everyone for the week. Enjoy with your family for the so-called Thanksgiving. No, we did not talk about the pilgrims or the turkey. We did have Indigenous Peoples Day already, and just everyone have fun with your families. Enjoy your families, and I'll be spending time with my family, my new family, which is my old family. I'm gonna miss my mom. I would have
Hi, Mama Bear.
spent this time with my mom. My mom loved Thanksgiving and love cooking and preparing meals together. That's something that we would do together. So I will miss that very much this year. And I'll be going to stay with my aunt, which is my mom's sister. And in my mom's honor, I will get on her nerves. And he says, speaking of After Dark, Josh Adams is doing a live Black Friday podcast on this Friday. So y'all want to check that out
Shout out,
on
Josh.
the Josh Adams channel on Detroit is Different. So yeah, everyone enjoy your Thanksgiving, enjoy your family, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.